I celebrated emancipation at Jackson Park, at McMath Park, at museum, where we would hold a gala at the Komodo Club each year. I attended Emancipation Celebrations from as long as I can remember, so I guess probably 1949 until 2 years ago. So on and off over the last 70 years. My favorite memory of emancipation is catching the brass ring on the merry-go-round when I was about 6 years old. That was just so thrilling, and of course it portended that my life would be wonderful, and actually it has been. As I grew older, and remember I started going to emancipation as a toddler, the import of it was very clear to me. I was always an older-minded kid, and I listened to the adults. And I've told many people I met Martin Luther King when I was about 8 years old. I remember Eleanor Roosevelt and Mary McLeod Bethune, and it was just so enthralling to listen to people talk about their lives and the history of Black people and the stories of people's families taken to Canada and visiting other families while they had their family communions. It was just a large part of the fabric of my life. Mr. Perry very well. He and my dad were childhood friends, and he and his wife would come to visit our home, and my dad was involved with the whole group dealing with emancipation. He was an electrical contractor, and sometimes he'd be at the park the entire 3-4 weekend days taking care of any electrical problems that might come up. Mr. Perry certainly earned the name Mr. Emancipation. The whole process started the day after it ended. It was a whole year of promoting and putting things together in order to have the extravaganza that he was able to produce. And he was a master connector. He had contacts all over the world. And he was involved in so many different processes that went beyond emancipation. Emancipation was a vehicle, not just a big party. As a child, I simply enjoyed the Emancipation Celebration. I'd sometimes go with my dad early in the morning in the business truck, and he'd let me wander around the park, and I was thinking about that a couple of nights ago. I was just a little kid, and I guess maybe it's because most everybody knew me at the park. I had no fear of wandering around that place on my own. Sometimes I'd be with my big sister, who grudgingly took me along. It was easier for me to go through the midway by myself. My dad always gave me tickets for the ride, so I kept myself occupied, and I, a people watcher, see all the beautiful people and listen to their conversations and just be enveloped in the most enjoyable process I have ever been party to. And I've enjoyed a lot of different events in my life. But as I grew older, when I became the curator at the museum, I helped to plan the galas and put in special exhibits at Emancipation time. And of course, by that time I was grown and married and had children of my own. And my former husband and I took them to Emancipation Celebrations. And we sat around many, many times over the years and talked about how wonderful it was, how much fun it was, how much education a person could get and learn about different family members and their history. I, I can't speak well enough about those Emancipation celebrations. They were extremely special. And, you know, with my dad being a master electrical contractor, he loomed large in my life. He was a big hero to me. And of course, anyone that he was friends with held great importance to me. And Mr. Perry and his wife also did. My mom would get up the day before the parade or the morning of the parade, let me put it that way. 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, start frying chicken, make potato salad. My grandmother would make her famous raisin pie and lemon meringue pie. You know, it was just the best food, and everybody was happy and excited. It was almost like Christmas. You'd get new clothing. Of course, all these special meals were being fixed. My uncle and his family would come down from Owen Sound. We used to see them at Emancipation, but not for winter because it was too cold to travel back then. It was just great. Emancipation was an international celebration. People came from all over the United States. I remember in the early 60s, busloads of tourists from Japan and Germany, people who planned their vacation to come to Windsor, Ontario for the Emancipation celebration. The size of the city population would double on that weekend every year. And yeah, the Miss Cynthia pageant, young ladies would come from California, New York, Alaska. If you look at some of the pictures that are there at the museum, you'll see them with their bands, with all the different states, and some of our Canadian girls would have where they were from. There was no other black pageant for young women anywhere. Emancipation Celebration, the Miss International Pageant, which it was called, was the only place a young woman could pride herself on winning being the most beautiful girl in North America. So yeah, it was definitely international in scope. The guest speakers were from all over North America. I remember the cousin of 2 boys named Lonnie and Leslie Bailey. They were my sister's stepbrothers. And their cousin Ruby came from Alberta. And Ruby got caught at the top of the Ferris wheel when it stopped functioning. That's another memory. That's not such a good memory, but it's certainly a memory of the Emancipation Celebration. And my dad had to come and fix the wiring so we could get down. But yeah, people came from all over the world. It was globally known. It was globally advertised. Walt Perry was a big figure. There was no such thing as a small event to him. I honestly don't know anything like it. I've been to World Fairs, went to Montreal. Couldn't match the Emancipation Celebration. And maybe it's because the whole city of Windsor was involved. I have friends from different cultures, all who have the same wonderful memories that I do. I don't remember there being fights. I don't remember children being stolen. I don't remember any kind of criminal activity per se. Of course, there's the smaller things under the surface. But by and large, it was just a great, big, happy weekend celebration, which was celebrating and commemorating abolitionist slavery. Yeah, there was Adam Clayton Powell Jr., who was from the Abyssinian Baptist Church in New York. He was also a congressman. There was Mr. Biggs. Now, Biggs had uh, funeral home in Detroit, Michigan, but he was also a political. Um, as for musical entertainers, uh, the Supremes won their contract with Motown in Windsor, and Mary Wilson, one of the groups, made the comment in the paper that they knew they had hit the big time when they got to Windsor and the Emancipation Celebration. I remember Jackie Wilson. He gave my girlfriend and I 25 cents to go away because he was courting the girl that lived downstairs from her house. So we went and bought ourselves cotton candy. Um, it was just that kind of a homey, open, welcoming time. You could walk up to anybody and talk with them. Um, Carl Owens, who was born in Buxton, became a renowned painter in the United States of America. People should look him up. There's some of his artwork at the museum. Um, he was friends in later life with Mac and Betty Simpson, the founders of the museum. And I went and visited Carl at his home as a grown woman. But the first time I met him, he was standing on the sidewalk just inside of the big brick arch gate that you went into Jackson Park, asking people if they would stop and let him paint. My God, what anything he painted would be worth now. It was just magical. Let me start as a toddler. Candy apples have always been the substance that I wanted most. I still go to the Herald Fair just to buy a candy apple. But, of course, being a little kid, they were bigger and they lasted longer and they were absolutely sweeter. The barbecue pit, the ribs, the smell of the chicken just was in the air. You could taste it. It was so strong. The chicken was supplied by a man by the name of Elwood Land. He grew chickens and turkeys. He was a black man. That was one of the things that McWell did. Try to hire or involve other black businessmen or black people. It was a real boost to our economy within normal society. The sauce, the secret sauce on the ribs, I happen to have. The man who invented that sauce was named Lee Morgan, and me and my dad were also really good friends. He gave the recipe to my mother, and being a good Christian, the only thing she didn't care to do was put beer into the sauce, but that was one of the magic ingredients. Um, Everything tasted better at the Emancipation Celebration. at the fairgrounds. The corn that you could get and they dip into the vat of butter came from a man by the name of Zip Johnson, Harlan Johnson from Harrow, who grew acres and acres of corn. He'd come in through the back gate where all of the vendors came with his truck loaded down with these big burlap sacks of corn, and then some of the younger black youth would shuck it and cook it. It was one of the places where African Canadian kids could get jobs for the summer. A lot of those mainstream places were not open to us at that time. And this is where a lot of young people earned their money to go post-secondary education. It was that kind of a process. Everybody benefited. Everybody benefited. The parade would start at Riverside Drive and go up Olette Avenue. They would last sometimes as much as 2 hours. Bands from all over the United States. I remember seeing a girls group called Dutch Girls dressed in Dutch costumes. Not all of the bands or marching were black either. The Emancipation celebrations were multicultural, and Mr. Perry was very wise in making sure that it was, because you got bigger crowds, you got better support and sponsors in the community. When the parades went past hotels and hospitals, they would stop playing music out of respect for patients. Shriners scared my kids to death with their clown outfits and the big noisy horns. The Black Panthers marched in the Emancipation Parade. And of course the floats with the beautiful young women of every hue. They were just absolutely gorgeous. I really think that it sunk into my brain during those early years that black was beautiful. Before that was a thing. For the height of the civil rights marches, early 1950s. And I could just wax poetic all day about this story. I have no bad memories. When the Emancipation Celebrations left Jackson Park after Mr. Perry died, I have never gone to a celebration that equals what that man was able to do. I think that there was a collective conscience within the Black community during the years that we had Emancipation Celebrations, basically 1932, 1967, he died in 1968, that we all wanted it to be wonderful. And so we all focused on putting our best foot forward. Mr. Powell took over after Walt died, but he wasn't the showman that Walter Perry was. There's so many little bits of magic that that man had that no one else who has tried to do it has. Bradley Jones, in the last few years at Lansbury Park, has tried very hard to put on a good Emancipation Celebration event. However, not many of my era left, and just a few that are older in the Black community, who even remember what the true celebrations were like. It's a shame, but with the federal government proclaiming a national emancipation celebration for the 1st of August this year, perhaps in the future people will be more ready to involve themselves and to help make a comeback for these celebrations. You know, just remember too, back when Emancipation celebrations were starting, there was no television. Um, the movies were about the only events that people could go out of the house to enjoy. So the celebrations meant so much more. Important to attend the Emancipation celebration and involve yourself as a member of the human race. To commemorate the Abolition of Slavery Act of 1833, which was enacted the 1st of August, 1834, and a celebration of some sort has been held in the Windsor area since 1834. I don't think there's a much longer process, fairs or anything that equals the longevity of the Emancipation celebration. It's a place to learn about Black history. It's a place to learn about Black pride. A place to learn about the contributions and achievements of the Black part of Canadian society, and for that matter, global Black society. Um, you need to be big thinkers. You need to appreciate that we have come through extremely difficult, treacherous times and survived not only as a people, but as a culture. And there's a difference between a people and a culture. We created a culture after we were free. And that makes so much difference in what Canada is today because of the pioneering freedom fighters who freed themselves, helped free others, and are still of a mindset to help people be free. People come to this country from all over the world to enjoy a special kind of freedom that is actually based on the emancipation of Blacks. And they shouldn't forget that. Well, there is definitely a component of civil rights, uh, specifically tied to the Emancipation Celebration. Mr. Perry would invite civil rights leaders, again, like Martin Luther King and Adam Clayton Talbot and others. I have to go back into my file to think of some of these people's names. It's been such a long time ago. But Shirley Chisholm, who ran as the first Black female candidate in the United States of America, came to the Emancipation celebration, and their gala at the Prince Edward Hotel. At that dinner, she spoke. Monies were collected to help her campaign. Canada and the United States are tied at the hip. We know that. If they cough, we hold up a Kleenex for them. And truthfully, there wasn't a feeling that it was actually a border between Canada and the United States. And in fact, Black people were not invited to become Canadians until 1911. So we had an open border thinking, and our cousins, actual cousins, and some brothers and sisters who had cross-border marriages we were all very involved with each other and how their politics and presidencies went, or when our politics and our prime minister. So, we sent money, different groups, uh, down in Atlanta, and the bus boycotts, and those parks, Smoking Windsor at the Dairy Works called just by the tunnel in the days that building was there. And the Ku Klux Klan surrounded that building. That was during Emancipation Celebration. These were not strangers. They were Black individuals who were a part of our inner society. Our society was in society. And it imbued us with a responsibility to put ourselves out there, volunteer, and to work towards a better world, more equity. The civil rights workers that we had here, Lewis Hall and Lana Talbot, had sit-ins at the movie theaters because at one time blacks were only allowed at the balcony at the Capitol Theater and things of that nature. We had some serious racist problems. Some of the restaurants wouldn't allow people to come in. My own uncle, Ed Henderson, tried to go to the Tunnel Barbecue when it was open in 1943 in his uniform, and they refused him service. He died in military training in January of 1944, and Mr. Rakovic, the owner of the restaurant, went to my grandparents' home on Assumption Street and promised them as long as they lived, he would give them meals free of charge. And I remember going to the Tunnel Barbecue or having them deliver food to my grandmother's house. And if I was good, I'd get the Dutch apple pie on Friday night. So, this all melded together. And as I said, when I think about it as I've been speaking this morning, it most definitely marked my path in life. And it most definitely made me a very proud African Canadian woman, a North American Black woman. And when I went to Africa, I spoke about the Emancipation Celebrations being something that linked us all together and gave us an advantage out in front of God and everybody. The whole world saw us at our best. They diminished because there were more things to do, more attractions. Along came Caravana in Toronto. It was not an emancipation celebration, but it was given that dignity. Of course, the homecoming in North Buxton was always a great place to go, and that's kind of a summer season, Emancipation Celebrations, and then homecoming in Buxton, Labor Day weekend. People don't think in terms of cultural separateness as much as we had to. There were a lot of prejudice laws and situations in place that made our lives narrower, that made it harder for us to achieve great fame or great wealth. However, the Emancipation Celebration helped us to understand how well we had done and helped us to strategize to do better in our fight for equity. I was extremely pleased when there was a unanimous vote to make emancipation events national. Because they've always been, first of all, this was never a civic holiday. It was always the Emancipation Celebration, the commemoration of the Abolition of Slavery Act that freed my people. And when you look at that act, it didn't free just black people. It freed bond servants and indentured servants and people from anywhere in the British Commonwealth, which at that time in history was said that the sun never set on the British Commonwealth because it was globally linked, and British Canada was one of its colonies, only one. People should think about that long and hard. They relegated it, having been only freeing slaves. What Great Britain actually did was buy all the slaves. They gave reparations to the slave owners of some $20 billion sterling, which in today's money is over $447 billion, I believe, Canadian money. So we were worth a lot. And our labor built North America for sure and enhanced the entire world. And Emancipation Celebrations, in my opinion, is huge. And it should be a national enjoyment for all of us to appreciate what freedom is, what freedom means, and to remember that it's up to us to continue to be free. So I think one thing that I can safely say is that the Emancipation Celebrations may have been the precursor for Max Simpson to decide to build the museum. The Amherst Freedom Museum is there to promote and preserve our heritage. And that is why we involved ourselves when it looked like the Emancipation Celebrations were going to peter out. They started, or were co-started in Windsor and Amherst anyway. Laurel Grove was where Delos Davis gave his speeches, and Josephus Jones from the Dresden area, who talked along with John Brown when he came to promote our prosperity grade. Emancipation has always been very political. Civil rights have been at our core from the very beginning. We were free, but we weren't given any help to establish ourselves. We did that on our own. The slave masters were given reparations. We weren't given a dime. And in fact, what we were made was indentured servants for the next 7 years before we were actually truly, thoroughly free, those of us who had been enslaved. It's a phenomenal story. It's something that we should absorb and make a part of our substance, because freedom is at risk again. And by having emancipation celebrations and pointing people mentally towards celebrating and protecting freedom is one of the most important things you can do.